So I would like to check how you juggle together with arm weight and free arms at the same time with correct posture and the head and chin down. This is very good. I like how it looks like. Yeah. All right, now shoulders and arms and everything loose, no tension in legs. That was good. I like your neck right now, and in the last lesson I could still feel that the desire to keep your torso still and a little bit strange position, new position of your neck would also provoke this kind of stiffness in your shoulders and arms, but now it's so much better. Now it's all balanced and you intonate and with arm weight and you connect that both sensations together, and yeah, everything flows. So far so good. Did you have questions?
Yeah.
So when you played just now, were you also trying to imagine the sound?
Yes, I tried, but I still have this blank state of mind. Especially at the beginning, I still have this, because I don't have absolute pitch. When I see the score, and even if I have the more of this, if I have a little anxiety because I have to play, I just I don't hear anything, and my hands just like automatically go beyond, go forward, and I just go them. But then in the process, I correct this, and I got this sensation.
Just a little story from my life. Maybe I mentioned that already before. For you guys, it's so easy because I actually prepared everything so everyone can develop it in such a laid-back way, comfortable way. When I had to do that, it was not only research, but I was still studying in conservatory, and I remember that I faced the problem of imagining both hands continuously for maybe one line, and I struggled to do that for some weeks. And the piece I had to do that was the first ballad by Chopin.
Emma, it's so nice to hear this, because...
So, and I remember I did it in the train. I was taking train from Krylatska to the center. Krylatska is where I lived. And it was like a 40 minutes train. And I would just sit there and I would just keep imagining. And then all of a sudden, I was just pushing it through, and the sound just didn't last, didn't go, didn't connect, but I was just keep doing it. I closed my eyes, I kept doing it, and then like the branches of the tree were connected, and I was able to connect and imagine continuously both hands together in the 3 bars of the first line of ballet. And I was like, wow. And then this was just a huge release in my mind because it was so much work. So for
yes,
you,
I'm very
you just need to work
happy
with Schaefer. And also you don't have any deadlines. And I had to prepare my ballet for, exam in a month. So, all right. Can you just tell me what is position change notes? Why do we need it?
Position change notes is the notes on where we do elbow movement to shift the position, to change the position. Shift the hands for changing the position.
And why do we need to do that?
Because if we don't do this, our hand would straight in this open position, so we do this in purpose of keeping the hand closed position.
And why do we need to
relaxed?
Okay, to feel relaxed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then we can play faster, more powerful, and with more stamina, and not experiencing any unhealthy discomfort. Okay, unhealthy tension. Good. So in the previous lesson, we learned first how to find positions and mark them with brackets. And so now we're going to finish with learning how to find position change notes within those brackets. All right? Well, basically, there are only two rules, kind of like. So tell me what are the method. What is the method to find the notes?
Okay, we have the
very
two
first
cases.
thing. The very first thing to do, even before the two elements. What the very first thing you need to do when you look at the bracket? Where do you look at the bracket?
Look at the last note in the position.
Exactly. All right. So you look at the last note in the position, and then the next two ways is basically what that last note in the position tells us. We look at the relationship of wrist and elbow. How do they behave on that last note? And if they are in a similar direction, then one rule applies. If they are in an opposite direction, wrist to the right, elbow to the left, another rule applies. Now, it's very, very important to have very concrete understanding about how to determine the movement of the wrist and the movement of elbow. So, for you as well, I know it's written there somewhere, but it's very important. So we determine the movement of the wrist by looking at the previous note, as we know. So if the current note is lower than the previous note, then the movement is to the left, right? But we determine the direction of elbow by the next position, not the next note. And students usually confuse that. So the movement of elbow, to find it, we need to look at the next position. So the next note, the first note in the position, could be lower. But if the whole position is actually higher, then it's to the right. All right? So, so this is very important to understand and digest. Okay. All right.
Direction of movement of elbow and wrist. And that's how we determine them.
Exactly how we find them. All right. So now coming back to you. So if wrist and elbow have the same direction, let's say both to the right. Wrist is to the right, and the elbow is to the right.
If the last note of the first position is on the downbeat, so this is a very good case, and we choose this. But if not,
so we choose the last note. We circle the last note. Okay.
Yes, yes. And if we, if it's not, then we choose the previous note in the position. So not the last, but the previous one. So the previous that is this on is downbeat.
Why would we do that?
To feel more stable.
So the whole idea is that we want to move our elbow on the note where we feel more stable. We don't want to move it on an upbeat where we feel that there is not much time, because this movement is quite prominent and you want to kind of feel it together with downbeat. It feels much better than on upbeat. All right? Now, it took me some time to explain it to non-Russian nationalities, because it seems that in Western world no one knows about downbeats, or better to say relative downbeats. Everyone knows about that downbeat is the first note in the measure, but what are the relative downbeats? Because most of the time second to last note would sometimes be a relative downbeat. So can you explain what is a relative downbeat?
Relative downbeat, can I explain it to non-Russians? The relative
So when we have three notes, So usually we always group the notes, right? Sometimes we group 2 notes, sometimes 3, sometimes 4. Most common, right? Under one stem. All right. Okay. So in group of 3, the relative downbeat is 1 and 2. In group of 4, relative downbeat is 1 and 3. Okay? All right. So that's the idea. And so when we choose the note that is on relative downbeat, especially if it's played with a stronger finger, 1, 2, or 3, or maybe we are also so lucky that that note also have a similar wrist and elbow motion, it's almost like a perfect example, but that doesn't really happen often. Most of the time, downbeat would be with opposite wrist elbow, or downbeat will be with a weak finger. So it's a kind of like a combination here. But, okay. So, if the last note in similar wrist elbow motion, then we choose the last note in the position as a position change note if it's on downbeat or relative downbeat to feel stable when we move elbow. If the last note is on upbeat in the position with similar wrist elbow motion, then we choose second to last note, previous to the last note, which is usually on relative downbeat. Because we don't want to move on that last upbeat note, we will not feel stable. Okay? So, now second way, what if the last note in the position has opposite wrist elbow motion? If the last note of the position has opposite wrist elbow motion, then the most comfortable way is to choose and circle the first note of the next position. Obviously, if one note is there and another note is there and there is no way to stretch, you have to work with those 2 notes in the current position and the previous position. But if it's within the stretch, even if it's, let's say, an octave, you can still do that. You can move your elbow on the first note of the next position. And I explain why. Because on that first note in the new position, wrist and elbow will always go in the same direction, which is more stable than on the last note if wrist and elbow goes in opposite direction. Doing this rather than this is much more complicated. We will have, so this actually, when the last note in the position is in opposite wrist elbow motion, that happens, I would say, 2 times out of 10, in the piece. So the more common way is when the last note is in the same wrist elbow direction. But even in the number 73 that we're going to take a look at, that we were using in the previous lesson for marking positions, there are 3 moments towards the end where this rule will happen. So we will see how it feels like when you play. So what about when we have runs and passages that have our scale or arpeggio pattern? What do we do then with position change notes?
We skip the step of determining the position and we choose only downbeats and relative downbeats. If we have the change in the direction of the scale, sudden change and big run again, in other direction, we choose the first note of this changing run. So for example, we choose the first note of the run that goes in different direction.
We choose the first note that shift direction to another, that shift the scale to another direction.
When we have similar pattern, we choose those notes that are both in both hands the same notes.
So our hands would move our elbows simultaneously at the same time. Motion etude is a very good example, but again, why we do that, what's behind it, is because it's much easier to control this way. Do you have to feel impulse in both hands at the same time? So only one note in the position, so we're moving elbow right there. The last note in this position, C, wrist to the left and elbow is also to the left because we're going lower towards the next position. We have a choice of two notes. It could be the last note or second to last. Now this last note is on upbeat. That's why probably we need to choose second to last note. Then on D, we're gonna move our elbow to the left, and while it's moving, we're also gonna grab that C to the left. This is how it's gonna look like. In the fast tempo, you will just feel impulse that starts from D. And this will help us to feel very comfortable and not doing this instead.
But yet we still need to hold a little this D. Yes? It's not like on the exercises when we right away let go the note. Here we need to, so when I do elbow motion, I still hold the note, and then you understand?
Yes, I understand what you mean. I would say that you need to let go of the note. So don't take that rule as just things that needs to be done. You need to be, you need to understand what's behind this rule. And behind that rule is not to hold too long to the note, so it would constrain the movement of elbow. But in this case, yes, you can actually almost connect the notes because your elbow is not going there. So in a way, the closer, so you can connect. If you play something like this, then yes, you would have to let go faster.
So yes, we don't have to act like robots only with rules and algorithms, and we should keep sense.
Just change that rule in your mind to, I'm holding to the note as long as it's not limiting my elbow motion. As long as I feel it limits my elbow motion, I let it go. That's it. It's much easier this way.
Okay.
All right, let's go to the next bar. Go on. Because it's a relative downbeat, the priority for feeling stability always go to the relative downbeat. Even if relative downbeat with weak finger, even if relative downbeat with wrist elbow opposite direction. The priority is relative downbeat.
Okay, I understood this. Okay, let's go further.
So can you just repeat? It's a very good idea to repeat those kind of patterns as words because it will help to navigate and organize your mind much better where to look. So you say, last note, similar wrist elbow motion, upbeat, so I'm choosing second to last note.
And it doesn't matter if it opposite directions with elbow, because it's relative downbeat and this is a priority.
Exactly. Well done.
All right. Go next. I want to ask you how we deal with this when we have the series of the same elbow direction in the one direction. Right.
That's a good question. So for example, we take a scale. It is important, as we know, when we move our elbow, not to bring it back. don't do that, but then how do we escape the overstretch? Like,
Yeah.
right? And in this case, it's basically it's about balancing. So this is how it looks like. In slow tempo, let's say. Then you move your torso if you go further. But let's see what's gonna happen when I'm gonna play faster. Faster. So that becomes just the one line, and it gives us the sensation that just elbow leads the forearm. So I suppose in this way, I don't feel any strange tension. My elbow just goes, and then it kind of comes back. But if you feel that you already made so much on the first one, and you cannot go to the second one, then again just regulate and just maybe not move it so much.
Yes, because I remember this idea always to keep large elbow jumping, even though we have the closed notes.
I think again I should explain what's behind this suggestion is that most of the time students don't make it enough. Yeah, so most of the time they feel, oh, this is a very small jump, so I just move it a little bit, and it's not enough. You can actually move more and still feel good. So in your case, it's all right. Don't make it too much. So give yourself the room. Don't make that.
Not too little, not too many. Yes.
Exactly. It works both ways actually. I forgot to tell you a very important thing. It's written in my book, but I think I need to really write it in bold and emphasize. It's regarding the previous topic of finding positions. You need to look at the highest and lowest note in the possible position. Everything in between. So here the highest is G and the lowest is C sharp. And everything you're going to play in between, like for example that D, it's within that position. So in this case, it's the stridon, which is finest less than a sixth. So always look at the highest and lowest note in the possible position. If it's 6, fine. If it's more, not fine.
I just took this in a little another way. I just imagine that we may have the border, lower border, the maximum is the note B flat. Is if we 6, yes, and all the notes are inside these borders, so it's one. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. Another way, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Good thinking. Well, all right. So coming back to now finding position change notes. So in this position, let's look at the last note.
The same direction as the elbow motion, the wrist motion, the elbow motion, but this is again upbeat. So we choose the previous note that is downbeat, C sharp.
So we're gonna move on C sharp. So that's how it's gonna look like. Wrist to the left, but elbow to the right, and then on the way we grab that C. So we start we initiate the elbow motion on C sharp. All right. Next one. No, first look at the last note. It's E. Next,
E.
Similar wrist elbow or opposite wrist elbow motion?
Opposite. It's opposite. It's opposite. So this is the case.
That's a good one.
And what to do?
And this is what I mentioned in the beginning of the lesson. Of course, If, for example, you need to play and then something like here, then yes, you would choose the first note of the next position, which is A. But because here we have it's impossible. Again, this is just a stupid rule.
Yes.
It's like you cannot do that. So it's that leap where you actually have to just jump. So you have to choose the last note of the position. But to give you an example where it's different, look at the line 2, the last bar. To satisfy you, how does it work? Okay, so we have this position, and then the next one. Okay, so this E, the last note, is wrist, elbow opposite direction, wrist to the left, elbow to the right, and it's very easy to choose that G as a first note in the next position to move our elbow and feel very comfortable.
Yes, I totally agree with this. And I think it's necessary to just add. It's necessary to add a little notice about this rule.
It's a little exception. Yeah.
Because it's very important that we can do this only on small
exactly.
intervals.
If you cannot reach it with your fingers, basically, if you cannot reach it with your fingers, then you have to choose the last note in the current position.
Good.
Here. Like you think, okay, but let's just say everything in order. So the last note, opposite wrist elbow motion. So by the rule, we should choose the first note of the next position, but we cannot reach this with our fingers. So another exception. So we have to choose the last note of the current position. Here. Very good. Yes. So this is our position. The last note is D sharp, same wrist elbow motion, but it's on downbeat, so we're choosing that last note. And when we play, you move your elbow and you let go of the note only if you feel that it constrains your elbow motion. So
very good notice.
So here I almost connect the notes.
Legato.
Almost really, your homework is really to memorize this structure. The last note, same wrist elbow motion, downbeat. I'm choosing the last note. It's just that. It's very important how you formulate your answer because it will organize your thoughts as well. Okay? So let's say again, the last note, similar wrist elbow motion, downbeat. I'm choosing the last note.
The last note, similar wrist elbow motion, downbeat. I'm choosing this note.
Good. So.
Okay, let's go further. Last note, different direction, opposite direction, wrist elbow motion. And the interval is short. That's why I choose the note of the second position.
You can choose the first note of the next position.
Last note of this position and the elbow motion is in the same direction. It's the downbeat. I choose this note.
The same thing here on the tied note. You
note.
can start moving.
And I choose on tied note. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Go further. Different direction of wrist and elbow motion. This is upbeat.
No. Different direction. There is no more about upbeat and downbeat. Then you look. Can you reach it with your finger or not? And you can. So in this case, you can move on the first note of the next position. So
I feel joy. Yes, okay, let's go for it.
That's the right answer here. Okay. Next.
Okay, the last note and the opposite direction of wrist and elbow motion.
So it's that F.
Okay, then I can reach the note of the second position. So that's okay. I choose the first note for second position.
Yeah, like your pace now. Good.
Go.
Here.
And that last note and the same wrist and elbow direction. It's the downbeat. I choose this note, but it's tie note, so I choose the note that is 8th note, not the quarter line.
Good. Here.
And the last note of second position is opposite wrist and elbow movement direction. Again, I can reach with my finger and I feel joy and I choose this. I go further. Last note is the same direction, wrist and elbow movements. It's an upbeat and I choose this tie note, I guess.
So it's this one. This is one position. Okay, right.
Then the same direction, the downbeat, I choose the last note.
Good.
Then opposite directions, I can reach with my finger. Oh, wow, it's very easy.
Yeah, I told you. Good. Now?
Okay. And last note is to the right with the elbow.
Same wrist
but it's
elbow
upbeat.
motion.
Yes,
Upbeat.
yes, it's the same wrist elbow, but it's the upbeat. So I choose previous note, second to last, it's downbeat.
Good.
And then again, opposite wrist movement, and I can reach it with my finger.
So you're moving?
Well,
All right. Okay. So I'll play for you how it would look like if I play, yeah, with elbow motion. Then we take a look what you. Okay. I'm not sure, yeah. And here, because the positions are not written in the score, so I'm confused.
yours not written,
I don't have,
so you
no,
just...
yeah, I don't have. So what we decided? To reach here, okay. Yeah, okay.
So you do this on the way, yeah?
Yeah, live, without anything.
Live.
The whole point of all of this is that in the beginning, yes, you train your mind and your hand to follow the healthy pattern of moving. But the good thing about our body, as soon as we feel something is healthy and like you say, you feel joy, your hand learn it like this. And so even if you're gonna side treat, your elbow just moves where it's supposed to move. And in fact, to come up with all that simplified rule, it took me years, only because I was trying to actually analyze what I do with my elbow and I then put it in a simple rule. I did not create the rule and then I was using elbow. Well, maybe, but like in the beginning. But to crystallize it to a more simple and clear way, at some point I actually started to just sight reading and just to kind of feel, oh, why did I move elbow here? And why did I move elbow there? And then again, that would bring me back to initial rule and upgrade it and make it much easier to understand.
This very powerful technique, so speeding up. Now I understand why it's important to have this algorithm in your mind. Last note, direction, choosing upbeat or choosing downbeat. This becomes automatic, and when you see this, it's so just naturally. And
it guides your mind. It organizes your mind. Your mind is not wandering anymore. Oh, where do I look? What do I try to account to? Yeah. So let's try to play. So now you have your brackets and you have your circle notes. So let's see how your elbow will move.
All right. I play without imagination, thinking only about movements. Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
I suggest to slow down. Just make sure that your
Uh-huh.
it looks okay. Just make sure that you feel comfortable in your mind. You're not rushing in your mind after your hands, right?
In this place, I don't let go the notes because it's easy for me to still hold them and not feel tension. Yes, it's very pleasant to play. Uh-huh. It's F. Here. Okay. Same direction on elbow. I need to check this.